All right, what's up, everybody? I'm the Bourbonist, and we're back for a different episode this time. So I'm here with my friend Joe. Anyone who follows some of my social media will see a tasting podcast is regularly listed. A tasting podcast is something that our friend Shane came up with that we were all doing together, and that's kind of sort of how me and Joe met.
Yep.
But the wives are friends, so while the wives are upstairs hanging out, we're going to be trying a little bit of whiskey. So today we got a pretty good selection. Stay tuned to see what we get into. What we're going to be starting with today is the Old Carter Bourbon Batch 15. So the reason I want to get into Old Carter a little bit is I'm a huge fan of Old Carter. I think everything they release has been phenomenal thus far, and I think that everything that they do for their wine is also incredible. But with that being said, Old Carter has recently came up for sale. Reason being is my understanding marital disputes have led to the company being sold off and the funds of those sales being liquidated between the couples. So, hate to hear that happening, but we hope whoever does buy the company continues the legacy that Mark Carter has started. But we're going to enjoy a little bit of this, and this whiskey is definitely something that Mark has crafted. Tell me when.
That's good.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So, like I said, Old Carter comes in at a premium price. It's very, very good, but you're going to be paying for Old Carter. But it really is handcrafted in America. It's delicious, and the American batches are actually my favorite. The bourbon batches are good. The rye, I'm not a rye guy, but let me know what you think about it.
Smelling caramel.
Caramel for sure. There's a little bit of breadiness in there for me. There's no wheat in this, but I'm getting a little bit of that like fresh loaf type smell.
Yeah, I'm getting caramel, maybe a little bit of cinnamon.
Mm. All right, on the palate.
Oof.
So this is the first thing I've had today. I'm sure it's the first thing you've had today
Yeah.
since you drove over. But what is this? 117 proof? And some of these Old Carters really get up there.
Yeah.
But I always like kind of tasting it. You smell it and you want to get the nose settled in, but once you taste it and you go back to the nose, it definitely opens everything up a little bit for you.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting that cinnamon you mentioned and a little bit of oak.
Oh, oak, yeah. Definitely the oak.
That's present. I really don't know how old this is.
This bottle?
Yeah, this whiskey, I don't know how much he aged it. So everything that he gets is he's a non-distillery producer. So everything he gets, he batches up. So, Joe, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? How'd you get into whiskey?
By you guys, actually. You guys made it seem the first time I met you guys were doing a podcast.
Yeah.
Asked me to join. I've never really had bourbon before. I've had a little bit of whiskey, but like a cheaper end whiskey. And then you guys opened my taste buds, and now I see myself buying bourbon on a weekly basis.
Yeah. So on a tasting podcast, one thing we love saying is you drink your whiskey however the way you want. Couple like 4-letter words in there, but you drink your whiskey how you want to drink your whiskey. And normally on the podcast, are you a rock or are you pebbles?
I'm a rock, yeah.
So Joe tends to like it over a rock, which, support that. However, it makes it go down best for you is how we like it. One thing I like seeing on that podcast is Elmer T. Lee, for example, the Buffalo Trace, legendary master distiller. He drank all of his with ginger ale. Wow. He liked his whiskey with ginger ale. A lot of master tasters will tell you they proof it down to 80 proof. These higher proofs will hide a lot of flaws. You try something at 80 proof and you're going to taste everything, whether it's good or bad.
Mm.
Now, at 80 proof, you're not necessarily going to get the notes of caramel and chocolate or whatever you get. But you will definitely come back to, is this got a plastic taste, got a rubbery taste, is this settle well? And that's kind of more what they're looking for than traditional specific
Gotcha.
notes.
I think I liked using the rocks just because I liked it cooler.
Mm-hmm.
But now since like I've been drinking it, I kind of prefer it without the rocks. I feel like I can taste everything without it.
Yeah.
So
It takes a minute. It really does take a little bit of time
yeah,
to get your palate acclimated to drinking something like this. Because what else would you drink warm? Coffee, maybe tea if you're into that. But 9 times out of 10, everything you drink, whether it's lunch, dinner,
right,
breakfast, whatever, it's probably going to be over ice.
exactly.
So it's just weird to the human palate to drink something that's, just warm or lukewarm. So that's really starting to open up to a lot more vanilla and
Yeah,
caramel now.
vanilla definitely.
It's really traditional. Mm.
Now you like to use these glasses. What is the benefit of using these over like a cubed?
So we have various types of glasses here because everyone has a different way they like to drink it. But these Glencairns were actually made by a family in, I believe it was Scotland. Don't come after me, YouTube, if I'm wrong. I believe it was Scotland. And basically, the purpose of this is as you're inhaling, there's room here for the air to come in and waft back up to
Okay.
you. So, whereas if you're using one of these the standard rocks glasses, when you drink that, it's just boom, it's everywhere. It's not concentrated. When you
Gotcha.
put this on your nose, it's concentrated. The air has room to come in, and then if you set it right there on your upper lip, then that's where the flavors are going to go. The air's going to come in on top, and then it's going to come right up the nose.
Okay.
Now that I'm starting to settle into this a little bit, I'm starting to get some toastiness. So obviously your standard, traditional notes, a little bit of oak, but there's also like a toasty oak.
Yeah. I'm
It's
still
really
getting
nice.
all that caramel.
Yeah,
It's
it's
great.
really nice. Mm.
So if you were to go buy this at like a local store, how much would you pay for an average bottle this size?
An average oak card, you're looking at $300. That's pretty standard. Now, I've definitely bought it for less than that. You might find it for the rise. You're gonna find around 240.
Okay.
You might get into 260, 280 with some of the bourbons, but generally speaking, you're going to be somewhere between that 280 and 300 range. Now, I've seen some of these older ones will get into the $400 range. I have a feeling that once Mark Carter is no longer the master blender, the master taster, whatever his role is, that these bottles are probably going to skyrocket.
Really?
But we're probably looking at a couple years because obviously companies set on inventory. So we're probably looking at a little bit before that happens. All right, last taste for me. What I like about these, like I said, he's originally a winemaker.
Oh, okay.
Old Carter Cellars is his brand. Now they have repeated multiple times perfect scores for their wine. They're legendary for their repetitious perfect scores. And he took that into the bourbon world and has absolutely demolished everybody. So Mark follows me on Instagram. Mark, if you're seeing this, cheers. I hope that whatever happens with this brand in the future, that the legacy that you have crafted and created is never forgotten because it is absolutely phenomenal. The ideal situation, I think, for most of us would be that whoever buys this brings Mark on as some form of consultant or something. All right, so clearing the palate so we don't get too hammered. We know that's been known to happen in this room a couple times.
Yes.
All right, so next thing we're going to get into is so Rare Character is a brand that has brought back Brook Hill. Now, Rare Character's always done a lot of really great stuff, a lot of really great single barrels, and they've crafted a lot of different things. They've tried different blends, they've tried different finishes, but they decided to bring that back this brand from the late 19th century, I believe, the late 1890s, called Brook Hill. So this Brook Hill, it's called Old Style Whiskey. Now I recently tried this on YouTube and Instagram, and I did a review of it.
Okay.
This is 121.68 proof. This is just hit Georgia. I was super pumped to be able to nail this. A buddy of mine was able to. He's got a very good relationship with a liquor store owner, and I told my buddy, I was like, "Hey, can you keep an eye out for this?" He's like, "Absolutely, I will." And he actually talked to his buddies, but he's like, "I got a couple in." I was like, "Absolutely, here you go." So this bottle, I've seen this bottle go for as high as $450, $500 on secondary. I was lucky to snag it for a fraction of that. But I'm really excited. In my opinion, this is 10-year-old whiskey. They have an 11. They have some ryes. They have some 9s, some 8s. In my opinion, this Brook Hill is going to be the next raging brand that everyone's looking for.
Okay.
I am going to definitely have this in my top 10 whiskeys for 2024. That list is almost complete. I have tried, at this point, about 50 different whiskeys. I've got it narrowed down to 30 that I have scored. And of those, I'm going to come out and do my top 10. I'm going to do a set of 5 and 5 blind. And then the 5 highest scores go into the finals. So some big bottles. Obviously, George T. Stagg has been sampled. That may or may not make it. We have the Jack Daniel's Coy Hill that may or may not make it. That one I'm really excited about. But today we got 2 more entries. Today we got a Bender's Stash and we got a Redwood Empire Haystack Needle. But we will get into those.
And that was the one you were...
These 2 I'm super excited for.
Yep.
This Brook Hill has obviously been opened and sampled, and I really enjoyed it. It's fantastic. So, this is very fruity to me. For me, this is a very, very fruity. I don't really remember what notes I got last time, but whiskeys, as they said, will open up. This one's been setting about a week, week and a half. I get a lot of floral and fruity, maybe cherry.
See, I'm still getting caramel.
So if I remember right, I believe this one was very heavy caramel when I reviewed it, and I do get some in there, but I'm stuck on fruity tonight. Not sure.
See, I'm
why.
not getting the fruit.
Yeah, I get that caramel a little bit more now.
Yeah.
But I'm stuck on.
I'm getting a heavy dose of caramel.
The beautiful thing about bourbon that other spirits across the world don't get is that bourbon takes in all of those delicious wood sugars. Those barrels are charred up on the inside, and then that whiskey interacts with them. And in the best of cases is like Jack Daniel's Coy Hill. Coy Hill is a series of rick houses at the tallest point of the Jack Daniel's campus, and they have the highest swings in temperature variations, and those swings and variations produce some incredible things. Now, I'm not 100% sure where this is distilled at, but 10 years is long enough to get a little bit of reaction out of anything. Distilled in Kentucky, aged in Kentucky, bottled by Rare Character. God, I love whiskey labels because they can tell you whatever they want to tell you to a degree. It is distilled in Kentucky. It was aged in Kentucky, and it was bottled by Rare Character.
Heated by a fire-breathing dragon.
Who knows? Who knows who aged it? Who knows who distilled it?
Okay, maybe I am getting a little bit of fruitiness now.
All right, on the palate.
Licoricey?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, like red. Okay, so do you call them? Have you ever heard anybody call them red vines?
No.
So I've always called it licorice, but I know some people that are like, "Oh yeah, red vines, love red vines." Like, what the hell are you talking about?
You were. They said it here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, so we're in Georgia, obviously, and nobody in Georgia is really from Georgia. Everyone's a transplant. I'm a transplant from West Virginia. Obviously, if anyone can guess, Joe's from Boston.
And that's funny. An old boss that I had said that, especially when the Falcons played the Patriots for the Super
Hmm.
Bowl. And he goes, "You won't see anyone turn out for the Super Bowl parade when if the Falcons win because they're all from different states.
Yeah.
They all migrate here."
You know what's interesting about that is baseball teams, you root for the home team.
Mhm.
That's very common. You know, when I was in West Virginia, I rooted for the Reds. And then when I moved down here, it wasn't hard at all to start rooting for the Braves. You
Yeah.
know, you're the home team, you can go to the games. When it comes to football, you don't change your team. Like you do not.
Yep.
If you're a Patriots fan,
Yep.
you'll be a Patriots fan in Massachusetts or Southern California.
That's so true, Colton, that you say that because baseball. So I don't know if it's the same here because I don't usually watch cable. I just stream it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was growing up in Boston, we would have two teams. We would have the Red Sox and a National League team. And the National League team always played on national television in Boston, which was the Braves. So I always grew up a Braves fan because I watched it when the Red Sox weren't on. They were on like TBS.
So it's funny
It's
you
the
say
only
that.
NL team that would show up was the Braves.
I remember being a kid in West Virginia, and we had DirecTV growing up, and we got WGN,
Okay.
which
Yep.
was always
Yep.
the Cubs. Cubs played all the time, and that was when I was a kid. Was when Sammy Sosa and Moises Alou and Kerry
Oh
Wood.
man.
And like, oh man,
The good old days.
those are some great teams back then. And so my mom was a big Cubs fan, and I was a big Cubs fan. And then, like I said, that once I got a little bit older, WGN went away, and I was able to actually travel for games myself, and I would always go to to Reds games, so that's how I became a Reds fan. But I always thought that's so weird that of all channels, WGN always hit the Cubs. And then I actually was listening to, I think it was a podcast, pretty sure it was a podcast, and they were talking about the same thing, how like WGN was just this
Yep.
national, the Braves are always on TBS because what's his name, Ted Turner
Yep.
owned
Exactly.
TBS, so he was always on. And I guess WGN was kind of in a similar situation where they always had the Cubs because they were partner relationships via the owners. And also that was so funny how many people grew up the same way I grew up watching those games.
So you'll find yourself watching a Cubs game if you had to, just
Yeah,
because you
no.
grew up
If
watching.
I had to say, like, my heart is with the Braves. Um, the Reds are the team you love to hate because if you want to get out of Cincinnati, the fastest way to do it is become an All Star. All Stars get out of Cincinnati faster than anything. It's incredible. I was a giant fan of a couple Reds, a couple guys that were phenomenal, and then as they got traded, I followed their careers.
Ken Griffey, Adam Dunn, you know.
Well, the big one was Adam Duvall. I was a
Oh,
huge fan of Adam Duvall and Billy Hamilton. Billy Hamilton, to me,
the speedster.
the speedster, he was the most dangerous person in baseball those 2 or 3 years where he was good.
If you could get on base. Yep.
Well, he had like a 200 batting average, but once he got on base, he scared the hell out of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And he could throw a game off. If he's on first base, the pitcher is not thinking about anything. So if he can get a leadoff spot, he can completely change an inning. But it was a matter of him getting on.
Yep.
And
He was also a threat in the outfield too.
yeah, fly balls and
He won a Gold Glove.
strikeouts were terrible.
I can't remember how many. I know he won at least one.
I think it was the same year he was an All-Star with Adam Duvall. And then the next year, Billy Hamilton's contract did not get renewed, and Adam Duvall ironically got traded to the Braves.
Yeah.
So he got traded to the Braves at the same time I came to Atlanta. And I was like, this was awesome. I love him. He's my favorite player. And then he got let go from the Braves, and they brought him right back. So I was pumped for him.
Yep.
All right, I need to finish this one off since you have. So again, some oak in there. I still get cherry.
Yep.
Still get some.
Like I said, I got licorice.
That's such a good note. To me, licorice is a good combination between cherry, fruit, and vanilla because it's that sweetness with that fruitiness.
What I find if I get a heavy dose of caramel, when I'm smelling it. I get licorice when I taste it.
What I like about this is this may be the most coating whiskey I've ever had. It coats the entire palate, front to back. It comes, like I said, I remember saying this in my interview, or my review, is that when the whiskey goes down, you get a lot going on. It's very vibrant. And then it goes down, and then you re-experience it once it hits the back of the palate. And I think that's 100% still true. This has opened up a little bit, so the flavors to me are a little bit more vibrant. That's why I got that cherry boom. But this is a phenomenal whiskey. I'm really happy that I got this one. Okay, so next, obviously a little bit of water. So next bottle. This one I just picked up this morning. So this is Redwood Empire. Redwood Empire is a brand out of California. They do a lot of really good stuff, and they have been expanding like crazy. They have been coming out with a ton of different variations to their whiskey. The last time they did one of these haystack needles, they did a 14-year unfinished that was knock your socks off, slap your mother, out of this world. It was so good. And I'd had samples of it, but I never got to own a bottle. So I am, as you can imagine, I spend a little bit of money on bourbon. And there's a few store owners.
Look at your rack.
A little bit. There's a few store owners in the area that I am very partial with, and we follow each other on social media. And a couple of those stores got some bottles, but they were released at like 11 o'clock in the morning. Well, I'm at work on Friday. I don't have time to go get it. And by the time I got off work, it was gone. But luckily, one of those store owners happened to post about it late last night. And, I don't know if I should call the store out and thank them on here or not, but it's a store in Canton, Georgia. I guess more specifically, it would be in Holly Springs. But that store was able to save a bottle, and I got up first thing this morning and ran to grab it for a great price, great bottle. And this, like I said, is the 8-year Haystack Needle from Redwood Empire. So here's the pop. Ooh, not bad. Little disappointing. Not really. To me, a pop means a lot. So don't want to go too crazy.
Yeah.
We still got.
What's the proof on this?
This is 122 proof, I believe. So everything we've had today has been, pretty consistent. 122.2. So yeah, we've had a 117, 121, and now 122. So we're working our way up. Oh man! All right, so legitimate review. Here we go.
Yep.
So I'm going to pull a Joe. Very rich caramel. I want to say, I want to say either like milk chocolate or toffee.
Toffee I get. I smell like campfire-ish.
Yeah. And then on the back end, I get this. So for me, I like to describe it like this. So I get these like boom, boom, boom. I get these like fireworks that'll start with, caramel and, chocolate toffee. And then you kind of get something that kind of settles those down. On fireworks, like boom, boom, boom.
Like there's levels to it.
Yeah. And then what that little pss is at the end is vanilla for me.
Oh, okay.
So I'm getting this.
Yeah, vanilla-y.
I'm getting this super rich caramel, toffee, delicious, and then just this like saving grace vanilla to even it out and smooth it out. All right. Cheers on this one, bro.
Yeah. Ooh, that's good.
Wow. Okay, so on the palate, I got this interesting like spike of flavors. Like, it hit the tongue
Yeah.
very subtly. So, like, this didn't burn the tongue at all.
No.
But it hit, and then, like, boom. And it's like, I don't know what I got. I got kind of like some oakiness, some smokiness, some sweetness. And then it just went straight to finish. That was nice.
Yeah.
Let's try again. Okay, so toffee. Like, what are the toffee candy bars? Do you have any idea what I'm talking about? I can't remember what they're called. But
I remember like Finnish candy bars were toffee.
Finnish.
Yes. I had a buddy back in Boston that his family was from Finland, and they would have these candy bars that were
These what?
top like the candy bars.
Wow. There's a candy bar out there. If you guys can remember what it is.
That's with a T, doesn't it?
Does it? I can't remember. If you guys can remember, put it in the comments. But there's a candy bar out there. It's very well known. And it's got toffee in it. And the reason I know this is my wife's father, my father-in-law, is a big fan of this candy bar. And I cannot for the life of me
Really?
remember what it is. But that's what I get. Wow. This is very dessert candy-ish to me.
It's got a lot of flavor. A lot. Like every time I take a sip, I taste more and more
Something
things.
different. Yeah, so that toffee is ever present for me.
Mhm.
It's the middle of my tasting palette right now. But around that I'm getting some oak. Something sweet and spicy in there. It's really nice. Like
Yeah.
a mesquite almost. Now, the one thing I'll say about this whiskey that's really disappointing me, there's not a significant finish on it. Once, like, so for me, you smell, the finish is once you swallow and you feel it hit your throat, what happens then? Where does this whiskey go from there? And the best whiskeys for me, the George T. Staggs of the world. In my opinion, I'm a George T. Stagg fanboy, and that is the best whiskey that's ever been made. The George T. Staggs of the world seamlessly transition so perfectly that you don't realize you've actually swallowed the whiskey. It's just, for me, grape, smooth, vanilla, subtle. This is a flash in the pan on the palate, and then it is sadly disappointing on the finish. So yeah, once I swallow this and it hits the back of the palate, you get this resounding pepperish note. That's what I'm getting.
I get spicy.
Yeah, and it sits there for a minute and then it's gone.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't do anything else.
Yep.
The worst whiskeys have dragon's breath, and I don't know if dragon's breath is actually a legitimate term. That's what I've heard. Some podcasters that I listen to talk about, and they say that it's dragon's breath. It goes down and then comes back up on you.
Okay. Yep.
And that's the worst whiskey out there because the cheap whiskeys do that, in my opinion. And what that is, it's a sign of over corn. They have a young, grainy, corny type of finish, and that comes back up on you. The best whiskeys settle and mellow. That rare character, it hit you about right here.
Yep.
And then it would just mellow.
Never came back up.
Never came back up. It was just warm, and I love that. This one, it doesn't come back up, but it doesn't do anything on the way down.
Yeah.
That's a little disappointing.
Okay, I get that now.
Yeah, I'm getting just a ton of toffee. I really enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. I love it. This will not do well in my top 10 list. And the reason being is in my top 10 list, I have an algorithm. So I take half the points that I score on the nose and 1.5 times the points I score on the finish.
Okay. Yep.
And then I add those two scores to the standard, score on the palate and divide it by 3. So you gotta think to me the nose doesn't mean a lot. If it smells like crap and it tastes delicious, who cares?
Right.
So it's a reduction on points on the nose. The palate has to be there. But the finish can absolutely kill a whiskey because that finish is going to determine, do I want to try this again? Do I want another glass of this? It's your last memory that you're going to be left with. And if it's bad, you're not going to be satisfied enough to go buy that bottle again. So I don't think this is going to do extremely well.
If I'm being honest, I probably wouldn't get this.
Yeah. I would get it strictly for what it is, what the hayseed or the haystack has done before. They've been phenomenal bottles, so I would definitely do it again. So, some water. Yeah. Wonder if DoorDash has arrived yet.
It has.
So, this next bottle is my pride and joy right now. I'm so excited to have this bottle. This is a bottle of Bender's Stash. Bender's Stash is a bottle that's been created by this guy that he's a golf aficionado. He's all around good guy. He's a beer aficionado. I'll introduce you to his social media page later on.
Yes.
But this guy is an absolute hoot on social media. He is my favorite account to follow. So
you're talking about good.
I'm hoping it's delicious. I'm hoping it better be delicious. But basically what this is, so William Bender has released this brand, and this brand is his own collaboration with a lot of different companies. Oh, that was a good one.
Yeah.
He's a big Purple Top fan from Willet, which who doesn't love Willet Purple Tops? They are overpriced for the right reasons. But he is basically trying to release the absolute best whiskey he can. Now, in a sense, this goes back to Old Carter being this a very crafted whiskey. He knows what he's drinking, and he knows what's good. So if he is going to put his name on this bottle, I can guarantee it's good.
Okay.
Now, he released a group. I think it's $150 a month to be in his club, and there was only 100 spots. For me, it wasn't worth hopping into, but I have a friend that did, and I am actually celebrating some of his whiskey that he decided to offload to me. We'll go a little heavier on this pour since we're about done.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this collar. Is that not dark? Dark and delicious.
Even the bottle just makes you want to get it.
Is that enough for you? Want a little more?
That's fine.
So Pappy Van Winkle. There's nothing special about a Pappy Van Winkle glass bottle.
Mm-hmm.
A Pappy Van Winkle is a standard average bottle. But that look of that bottle is resounding.
I like it.
And a lot of these, like Brook Hill, Old Carter, it's just a very standard bottle. Now you have the brands, like Redwood Empire definitely put some embossing on this bottle. I mean, it feels like a tree. Yeah. Jep the Cree does the exact same thing. They put a lot into it. As a matter of fact, Blanton's, a lot of people think that Colonel Blanton or Elmer T. Lee, a lot of people think that there was a reason behind that bottle. No, that's just a very stock standard bottle, and that's what they used. Huh. So there's no real story behind that grenade-sized bottle.
I think the colors match well with the gold and the black. It's appealing.
Simple is okay. You know what I mean? Going back to elegance, simple's okay. And for this brand, he definitely did it right. Now he's got his little logo on there. It's Mr. Bender with the stash, and he got the full beard. Like I said, this is just a man's man.
Yeah,
good dude. When I started following him, partially for the whiskey content, partially for the golf content. But
Which one's better?
they're both great. He hosts a golf channel episode or show. Maybe he still does. Maybe he quit hosting it. But for a while, he was hosting a golf channel episode, and then he started releasing some social media stuff. And like one of my favorite things is he keeps doing this thing where he stacks barrels, and he'll stack like 4 high, and then he'll see if he can chip over it. And he'll do like 5 high, can I chip over it? And he'll like challenge himself to golf stuff, and then he'll post these pictures or these videos of him on a golf course, and it'll be like a bottle like this, and he'll have like some ungodly cigar in his hand, and he'll pop this thing off, he'll chug it, he'll hit the cigar, and then he'll drink it. And it's like so damn cool. like he is the definition of cool in my book. I love this guy.
Well, you mentioned the like stacking them high. Have you seen the new trend now where it's like trying to chip over your house?
Yeah. So yeah,
My follow-up question is, when are you going to do it?
Man, whenever I've decided that I'm ready to get sued by either my wife or the neighbors behind us, I'll do it. No, so that was DeChambeau, right? That started that?
Yep. It's sweeping the nation right now.
So funny that you being from Boston. I saw one today with this guy from Boston. I'm gonna try it, and man, he hits a stinger straight through his window. And his wife comes outside like, "What the hell you fucking doing out here?" Like, I was like, "Oh shoot!" But that's exactly what would happen. Like that, the name of my game is a stinger, whether I intend to or not. It's a piss missile every time. So, and you know what cracks me up about DeChambeau in his swing is when he comes back with the swing. If you watch the club, he keeps the club very much stiff. He doesn't bring it all the way around. He keeps it very much stiff. He keeps his wrists locked, and then when he comes through, he really does just kind of waft off the ground. But I don't have the skill or talent or ability to do any of that.
No.
I would honestly be nervous to try to do it over a couple whiskey barrels.
Yep.
But Bender's stash. If by some miracle Mr. Bender gets a hold of this video and sees this, cheers to you, sir. I believe he follows me on Instagram. But I will definitely make a short of this video and tag him in it so that way he can see it. But cheers to you, sir. And cheers to you for being on tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Holy cow. Oh, wow. So, I got to sit with this one for a minute. This is not exactly what I expected. So, oats. You ever had morning oats?
Mm-hmm.
And they have some like brown sugar mixed in?
Never had the brown sugar.
Never had the brown sugar oats? No. Man, you're missing out.
Regular oats for me.
Man, just plain Jane. Have them with a Metamucil first thing in the morning. Start your day off. So this to me is oats. It's very oaty, with some brown sugar mixed in there. I imagine this would be something. If I had to eat this, it would be morning oats with brown sugar and some honey drizzle, and that's 100% what I'm getting.
Honey drizzle.
I don't know if I'm going to like this or not. This could be the greatest whiskey I've ever had or the worst whiskey I've ever had. I can't decide. It smells. It's so distinctly. Well, on the palate.
I like it. I do like it.
So,
I can tell by the look you didn't like the finish.
No, it wasn't the finish at all. I'm actually still getting some finish, so that's like bonus points. So, This is made by MGP. It doesn't say that anywhere. But for any novices out there who don't know whiskey, anything distilled in Lawrenceburg, Indiana is MGP. And there's nothing wrong with that. MGP is a phenomenal brand. MGP produces probably your favorite or top 5 favorite whiskeys. They do a great job. It's a massive distilling company that does a lot of great things. So he has definitely sourced this from MGP. I guarantee you Mr. Bender has tried this himself. But I 100% get a somewhat grainy, oaty. Is that a word? Oaty?
Oat?
Oat?
Oats?
OT? I mean, it's not bad. I don't want anyone to say like this is a bad whiskey. I'm not saying this is a bad whiskey.
I really like
This
it.
is very just off-putting for me.
I think it's because you expected something else.
I
and you
did. I
got-
expected this to be very traditional, and
Yep.
it's not traditional, but it's not bad. So I'm getting more caramel now.
Yep.
So I know you. How do you say it?
Caramel?
Caramel. I go back and forth. Caramel, 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 caramel. I don't know.
I mean, if I'm using my Boston accent, it's caramel.
Caramel. Okay, I'm glad you said that. So I watched Black Mass the other day.
Oh, yes. For the first time?
For the first time.
Okay, you're speaking my language. First off, how did you think Johnny Depp did?
You know, I had to double check twice while watching the movie. Stone sober. I had to check twice and make sure that was Johnny Depp.
Good.
It like
Now,
God.
did you know the whole history of that?
No, I knew nothing about it.
You knew nothing of Whitey
In my
Bulger.
mind, Whitey Bulger
Okay.
was a prohibition mobster. It wasn't until I started watching this that I found out this was like the 80s and 90s.
Yes.
And I was holy cool.
There's
And
a story I will tell you off camera of how we're linked
oh shit.
that I cannot tell you on camera, but I will tell you afterwards. But I've known everything about Whitey Bulger.
So you're a Southie.
Yeah.
Man, I feel like
I
feel
did
so
work in
legitimate saying that word. Just saying Southie, I feel so cool. Okay, so we're gonna get back to this, possibly off camera, but I really want to get into this whiskey a little bit more. So, this dark collar, I want to get into this dark collar. You don't get collar like this from whiskey in an 8-year-old bottle unless it's very unique. I mean, 8-year-old whiskey does not look like this. This looks like motor oil, and I love it.
I mean, that's a good description of it.
I'm getting a lot more toasted caramel.
Yes. Yep.
It's really starting to settle in now. Maple, maybe a little bit of maple syrup. And God, there's some ethanol in there. I mean, that alcohol is ever present.
Yeah.
And I feel like that alcohol is so present because anything you mix with like a lot of corn, a lot of grain, you're going to get a stiffer alcohol presence. There's nothing in there to kind of soften it. That's why a lot of whiskeys will use 4 grain or wheat to kind of soften those edges.
Is this back to the dragon breath thing?
No Dragon's Breath. No, this is not a cheap whiskey. This is not a poorly crafted whiskey. The complaints that I'm having about this whiskey are purely just, me nitpicking, I guess. Because it goes down well, it finishes well,
Yeah.
it finishes smooth. I'm just kind of nitpicking the grainier notes of this. This is a good whiskey. I would be willing to bet in a blind this would win most blinds. There's no fruit presence in this for me at all. None. Zero, zip, zilch.
Yeah.
That almost kind of is disappointing for me. I like some sweet fruit presence in whiskey, mainly because I get it. I get so much of that grape from George T. Stagg, and that is correlated to the barrel, the wood, and the way it caramelizes. That's where you get those fruity notes. So let me try some water.
Now, how does this stack up against how you thought it would?
You know what I was expecting from this? I was expecting very rich fruit. I was expecting some very rich caramel, vanilla, traditional notes. I really don't get a lot in the way of traditional notes. It's almost like a different style whiskey that I have not had. It's like I said, that oat. I keep getting oats. I keep getting that, and it's not grain because that corn grain you'll know that. But I keep
now it
getting
surprised you. Did it surprise you in a good way or a novice way?
I wouldn't say it surprised me in a necessarily a bad way. It's very good. It's very good, but it's very good in a way that I've never really had. I've never gotten an oat note on whiskey before.
Oh,
So it's somewhere between grain and dusty, which is like saying it's somewhere between 1 and 100. You know what I mean? Mm. I think this would do very well in a blind. Um, Now I'm starting to get some of those sweeter chocolate, dark chocolate. There it is. There at the very end. So I would say at the beginning I get oat, I get some brown sugar, and I get some maybe maple.
okay.
But then towards the end, a little bit more tobacco.
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 I don't think I've ever heard you say that
You
while
know,
we've been doing the podcast.
Tobacco's very standardized. um, Tobacco is, to me, it's almost a more flavorful plum. You know, plum notes can be a little sour. Think of tobacco as a plum note that's not sour. You know what I mean? And I can get a little bit of that in there as well. Man, I'm kind of all over the place on this. Every time I taste it, it's like it's very much evolving. Guys, thank you for tuning in. Cheers. Yep. We appreciate your views.
See you on the next one.
Like, click, and follow the Bourbonist. Joe, do you want to sell your Instagram handle here?
I mean, I got nothing to sell, but if you wanna subscribe to the Cream of the Crop, that's me.
Cream of the Crop. Cheers, guys. Thank you so much.